As they say, time flies when you're having fun. So we're down to the last presentation of our Defense and Security Conference, and I'm happy to present Kebni AB. It's a company that develops advanced solutions for stabilization, navigation, and Satcom. It's listed in the Swedish market with a market cap of around 441 million euros. The company will be presented by Torbjörn Saxmo, who is the CEO of Kebni AB. Format, like with all the other presentations today, 20 minutes presentations, 10 minutes Q&A. And for that, please enter your questions into the chat box on the bottom of the screen. With that in mind, Torbjörn, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Again, my name is Torbjörn Saxmo. I run a small defense company in Sweden since 1st of February 2021. My background is 28 years working in defense for Saab. Kicking off, Kebni. Our vision is bringing stability to a world in motion, where we produce a lot of products with that highlight. Generally speaking, our products are robust and reliable, and with use cases being in tough environments. We are a proven partner for big defense companies. I will get back to that. And I do believe that we have a very competitive price performance ratio. As a small and agile company, we are willing and able to tailorize solution within our product scope. If I look at the customer segments graphically, we are into military, governmental, and commercial customers, typically defense and industrial automation. We are delivering products to, for instance, missile manufacturers and companies in mining industries. Our product areas are two. We are doing the inertial sensing, where we make IMUs measuring relative movement and calculate relative movement. And we make stabilized platforms where we have an application for satellite communication. Our vision is bringing stability to a world in motion, as previously stated, and that is the common denominator in this case. If I go into the Satcom area, our solutions are tailorized for moving platforms. Typically, our P9 gimbal antenna, a 4-axis solution developed to be able to track geostationary satellites from a moving ship. And they are typically being used in military ship applications all over the world. And I can draw the conclusion that mobile Satcom is a growing market, and there is a growing need for these stabilized platforms. If I look at the comparison with our competitors in price performance, I would conclude that performance-wise, we are at least as good as our largest competitors, and at a price that is less than those competitors. The market as such is drastically growing from now until 2030, and our addressable market in Satcom is 4,000 million SEK. If I go into the inertial sensing area, we're making the IMUs. An IMU is a small gadget with gyros and accelerometers located in 3 different axes, which makes up for the possibility to measure relative movement, and by doing that, giving the foundation for calculating for navigation and positioning, to build stabilized platforms such as our P9 platform previously mentioned, and to do precise motion analysis in various applications. In recent times, example on applications are obviously flying drones. These can be either fixed wings or rotary wings drones. We have drones on the water, either underwater or on the water. There are future soldier systems where the soldier of tomorrow will be constantly monitored and tracked by higher echelon and command. And we have land applications where vehicles are using IMUs for navigational purposes in different applications. And I'm happy to say that our own developed family, Kebni Sensation, currently is being tested in all of these applications with good results. Just recently, we received feedback from one of our IMU resellers in Europe. And his comment was that excellent product placement, you're killing industrial competition with spec and tactical competition with price. And that really makes me proud and gives a good setting for the future of our Sensation family. If I go into our core and backbone of the company, in 2019-20, we, in competition with the big IMU producers of the world, won a competition for producing a new IMU for Saab's NLAW missile. We managed to come ahead in that, and we were tasked to develop this IMU over a 4-year period, nice and slow. But in February 2022, we had Russia attacking Ukraine, and drastically the scenario was changed. And specifically, we were asked to do the development of the IMU in 14 months instead of 4 years. We managed to do so. We also managed to start production actually 4 months before the development was even finalized. So in summer 2023, we had our first deliveries to the customer, and we received several serial orders since then. The last one, actually a couple of weeks ago, the order was for 134 million SEK, which sums up to 348 million so far for delivering the IMU for the NLAW program. The IMU in NLAW, just to give a hint of what it's being used for, is initially used to track the gunner's movement when tracking the target. And based on the tracking movement of the gunner, the missile will calculate a trajectory to meet the target. Once the missile leaves the tube, the IMU is being used for calculating the error of flight path compared to the calculated error, and thus continues to calculate until interception of the target. So that means that the IMU is critically important in the missile from the aiming up until final target intercept. So far, extremely good results. If you Google NLAW and Ukraine, and there are quite a few films on internet available that will show the missile as such in use. As a sort of small, I will call it in this sidekick, we're using our competence to actually develop a system where we monitor movement of scaffoldings. Unfortunately, there are a number of cases where scaffolding has fallen and has led to injuries, fatalities, and also obviously a high cost of actually replacing and restarting any construction site. Our system will monitor the scaffolding and will give a clear signal to whomever is responsible for the construction site that the equipment is safe to use. And when it's not safe to use, that signal will come to the manager of the site. And thus, you will be able to take measures and steps to make sure that the scaffolding is safe. This product has been developed and is currently being launched in a joint venture company in between ourselves and another Swedish scaffolding company named Solidec. And it's a 50-50 joint venture, and we expect to have the first paying customer before mid-2025. If we go into financials, we have done a substantial journey with Kebni since my start in 2021. Initially, we were 18 people and our net sales was 18 million. And since then, we have been building the company again. The backbone have been the IMU for the NLAW system, but we have built Kebni and the Kebni product line thoroughly over the time, meaning that in 2024, net sales amounted to 131 million, while only being 25 employees. So we still remain a small company, but we're able to be profitable with an EBITDA of 11% in 2024. In 2024, we also had our own developed IMU product line ready for serial production. And we established the new joint venture company with its own CEO running things from this year onward. If I look into the numbers more specifically, net sales 130.6, adjusted EBITDA was 14.1, and that amounts to 11%. Why do I mention adjusted EBITDA? The reason being that we closed down a business up in Kalix last fall, and we took the cost for that closing in the books for 2024, and that's why we're showing the adjusted figure. And this means that we cut cost with ballpark 1.8 million SEK per quarter going forward, starting 2025. Net profit was 2 million, which amounts to roughly 2%, and we had 7.7 million in operating cash flow. For us, this is the baseline year from which we will take stand and from which we will be measured going forward. If I look into the first quarter in 2025, net sales amounted to 35 million, a growth of 13% compared to the same period last year. EBITDA 3.4 million, and that equals to 10%. Net profit of 0.9 million, which is 2%. And we had a negative operating cash flow in the first quarter of minus 8.2 million. We're doing well when it comes to sales, and we have invested for the future to shorten lead times, among other things, and that's why we're hit a bit in the cash flow. Again, remember the journey where we have built over time the stable company, hoping for the future, and with this as a baseline, our ambition is to be regarded as a growth company, and 2024 to be the baseline for this growth. Finally, why invest in Kebni? In my opinion, we are a small and agile tech company that clearly is on the beginning of a growth journey. We have a record sales pipeline within growing high demand markets. If you look at the IMU markets and you look at satellite space and communication, all of these markets are clearly growth markets for the future. We are a proven supplier for world-leading companies like Saab. So that gives us confidence, and that is a story which we tell to potential other customers and to get their intention, and it seemed to work well. We have a sharp and competitive product portfolio where price performance over time has proven to be one of our competitive edges. And we are growing from a solid foundation with revenue growth, and we're doing it profitability in a profitable way. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you so much, Torbjörn. First question is, you do everything design, production, and sales, or do you have production outsourced?
No, that is a good question. We have part of the production outsourced. When it comes to the IMUs, we're designing the IMUs ourselves, but the PCB board manufacturing and the assembly of the IMUs is done by another company. However, the calibration, which we regard as core, is done in-house. So the answer is yes or no. Whatever we think is core, we keep close to our heart. This is also a competitive edge that we have when it comes to being in defense industry, where we have the opportunity to actually offer offset in obligations to other countries and customers to move part of the production and do it elsewhere, as long as we can do our core at home.
Thank you. You talked about one of the key differentiators being price or cost benefit for the end customer. Are there other modes that you have versus your competition? Anything that differentiates you more than price or cost benefit?
Absolutely. I think that one of our competitive factors would be that we are willing to tailorize our products, meaning that we have developed our sensation family on our own, but in relationship or in discussion with potential customers, users, we are prepared to tailorize this family of products for their specific application, which means that we're not like Ford in the 30s saying that you can have any color of your car as long as it's black, which I would say would be the tendency if you would go and ask the big companies in the IMU markets. They have a product range, and that is what's available. You buy whatever is available. To go out on a limb and tailorize something, that is rarely done. So I would argue that this is also a very competitive edge of ours, to the high willingness to do whatever the customer is requiring. Also to be very tentative on the customer demands and actually support the customer when they integrate our products in their end solution.
Thank you. You were talking about growth in the Satcom area, and I think a lot of growth drivers are quite apparent. Yet, maybe something that we are not fully aware of, because one of the questions was, could you expand on the growth drivers in the Satcom space over the coming years?
I mean, growth in Satcom area, generally speaking, is done in various ways. You have both the geostationary satellites and you have the lower orbit satellites with Elon Musk Starlinks as an example. But given the fact that there are a lot of satellites being up there, and they are being used, and they have bandwidth still being used, the market as such is very much growing, both in Europe, where satellite communication is increasing, and especially in Asia, where we also have a market footprint. So the growth is given on various different wave bands and various different satellite applications.
Thank you. Very specific question. How specific is the IMU system to NLAW, where else it is used, planned to be used?
One more time, please.
How specific is the IMU system to NLAW, or where else it could be used or planned to be used?
I mean, it's tailored for the NLAW application, and NLAW is a very specific missile with a very specific set of requirements. It's got a certain distance to reach the target, certain characteristics. But if you have a similar system with a similar requirement, the IMU could be used for those applications as well. But primarily it's developed for the NLAW.
Looking at your growth prospects that you're having, it seems like you've got a very good product at hand. Are there any traits, any qualities that you lack, maybe on the distribution side, access to customers, that would make M&A for you an interesting avenue to pursue? And are there any businesses that you could imagine buying, or maybe even having somebody who would see you as an acquisition target because he or they feel like they're a better owner of your business?
Yes, and yes. Basically, I mean, we have a strategy that we follow, and that means that we strive towards acquiring certain customers. We have a fair idea. Again, we're looking for high demanding customer, military segment or governmental with tough requirements. That is sort of what is close to our heart. We leave the pure customer segment aside, with the exception of ScaffSense. We go for these customers. We try to have a good, intelligent discussion with them to come up with whatever solution they need and find a good application. And to fulfill our strategy, obviously, that also holds a number of cards when it comes to expanding our competence and expanding us as a company, saying that we are constantly looking at possibilities for M&A action. Given that we have proven ourselves, given the order backlog, it would be fair to say that we could be a candidate for other companies' M&A action as well. Sure. So all of the above, actually.
Looking at growth, unfortunately, I don't remember the balance sheet of your company and what your liquidity situation is like. Is there a point in time where you could envision raising additional funds, be it through debt or through equity, to finance the growth that is ahead of you? Looking at the scaffolding business, for example, which of course might face run-up startup costs, or even though it's a 50-50 venture, or maybe in other business areas where you see growth opportunities, but you don't have the financing to push them through?
Actually, in our strategy and in our plans, we do not plan to raise more capital to fulfill our journey as we see it currently. But having said that, obviously, we might run into a situation where we we find some M&A candidate that we need to pursue, and in that case, the scenario or the plan will have to change. But currently, we don't see that we need to raise money just to run the company as is.
So organic growth can be financed through cash flow and
yes, that is the plan.
Liquidity. All right. Thank you. Last question, looking at the time and how it progresses, is whether or not your supply chain is exposed to rare earth metals, and if so, how you manage that potential risk.
Good question. No, I do not believe that we are exposed to rare earth metals, but yeah. If I dig deep enough, that might not be the case. Good question. I come up a bit short on that. Sorry.
No problem. And I overpromised. I still have one question that is ready to be asked, and that's margin improvement. Now, in 2024, you've shown very solid margin improvement, also driven, I would assume, by better capacity utilization and fixed cost absorption. As you grow, margins should increase further up to the point of full capacity. Can you give us an idea of where the capacity lies and where you expect margins to go?
Well, being in defense sector, to begin with, I would say that it's fair to say that we expect that our margins are way better than the 11% we managed to deliver in 2024. So we do expect an increase, and as a company, obviously, we are constantly working on our processes, working on our supply lines to make sure that wherever possible, we are able to cut cost and increase margins. And with the statement that we want to be a growth company, with 2024 being the baseline, I think that we give a fair indication of what is to come for the foreseeable future.
But you don't have a certain capacity that you're still filling presently?
Okay. Well, when it comes to the IMU side, let's put it this way. With an investment of 6 million SEK, I could double my IMU production capacity compared to today. And if 6 million should be seen in comparison to the last order we received for NLAW IMUs, which was 134 million. That gives you sort of a perspective on what type of investment we need to do to actually double the capacity. So investment is fairly slim, and personnel-wise, we do not need to invest heavily either to actually double the capacity. It's a matter of hiring 1 or 2 persons actually to achieve the double capacity.
All right. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but nevertheless, I appreciate the insights that you've given. I think it's a very interesting company, and I congratulate you on the most recent development, and of course, keep my fingers crossed for the next couple of quarters and years. In case there are any additional questions, feel free to contact the company directly. We'll also post the video, the recording of this event today on our Research Hub, where you can see it probably in the course of this afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to meet the 7 companies that were presented today. And thank you so much, Torbjörn, for being last but not least in our lineup. And you've drawn quite a crowd, so I guess the last slot wasn't the worst slot. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks for your time. Bye.